The presentation today is about what can be done to simplify the upgrade process. And the technical people amongst us would know that sometimes it doesn't feel that simple, but there's some big enhancements coming along which is going to facilitate that process. Because we're going to be talking about, especially in this presentation, we're going to be talking about things that are planned and things that are not actually in the current release, then this safe harbour statement is important for everyone in the room. And it's just... Sorry, you're on. Thanks, Brian. Let us know when you're ready. And, anything in the release or anything in this presentation won't form any part of a contract and etc. etc. You'll find it at the start of every oral presentation. So what we're going to go through today is we're going to talk about the current tools. So we're going to talk about the things that can make the upgrade process a little bit more simple. And so we're going to go through those first and install those out and chat about those. We've only got 34 slides to get through today, so we'll get through the content quite rapidly. And then we're going to talk about how the process is planned to be improved. So for the tools release 9.1 and for application release 9.1 to get to application release 9.2, how that might be a more simple process. So we'll delve into that. And any questions and answers, but I'll only be doing simple questions and simple answers, because like I said, given the presentation on Saturday afternoon, I might only just be one step ahead. So, we want to talk now about what's available to you today to use to make the upgrade process smoother, easier, better. And so there's a bunch of utilities that are written that I'm sure a lot of us already do use, but potentially there's some here, and there's some that are new to release 9.1 that you may not know about. So the first two items that I'd like to talk about is firstly is UPK. So UPK is the classic see it, try it, know it, do it, and that's Oracle software to facilitate the process of training your users, but also to assist you in creating test documentation and test cases, to use those test cases to train your users, and really to reuse a lot of that process information within the business for the project. And so UPK is some software that allows you to rapidly create this training, testing, documentation, and then disseminate that easily to your business and make it context sensitive to JD Edwards, and give your users the ability to reference that documentation, from within the application. So that's an important additional piece of software that can help you with your upgrade process. The second one we've got listed here, UPK has been around for quite some time, but I think OATS, so the Oracle Application Testing Suite, this is it's newer. It's been in the Oracle product list for quite some time, but it's a newer piece of software, and this allows you to do a couple of different types of testing. It allows you to do automated load testing or automated stress testing, so you're able to load up your JD Edwards applications with essentially virtual users, and you can do that in the concurrency and the complexity that you want to do. And it's a very common thing that people will, very common and recommended practice before go lives, before new tools releases, or before implementing new pieces of technology, that you might want to do some load testing before that. The Oracle Application Testing Suite has accelerators for JD Edwards, so when you're recording JD Edwards scripts, you're able to accelerate the recording and the playback of these scripts, and it's a very simple process. And actually we're going to a presentation tomorrow, so I'll be doing a presentation tomorrow on Application Testing Suite. In terms of performance testing, there's an additional module with the load testing which can actually do functional testing or regression testing. So you can actually execute what you've recorded in UPK. Now unfortunately these two things aren't built in together, but I have to say watch this space. Be careful with the safe harbour statement, but watch this space. So the scenarios that you record with UPK, it seems quite natural that they might be able to be fed in to Oracle Application Testing Suite for your regression testing. but the Oracle Application Testing Suite can do automated regression testing and report over the success or failure of those reports. So you could choose to have all of your regression testing in Application Testing Suite. You could do that before every tools release, before and after every ESU, however you wanted to do it. You don't have to bring the project team in, or you don't have to bring in people from the business to execute those process-based tests. All of those tests can be done automatically through the Application Testing Suite. Another product that you're probably familiar with, and I know a lot of people in the room are intimately familiar with, is the change assistant, and that was a godsend for us technical people. It's been around for quite some time, and it facilitates the process of becoming patch current. So that enables you, it's a self-updating Java program that would generally sit on a workstation or your deployment server, and it can hook into the Oracle website to support.oracle.com, and it can enable you to download thousands of ESUs at once, to apply hundreds of ESUs, thousands of ESUs. It enables you to search for fixes, allows you to do concurrent downloads. It gives you nice things like being able to see if ESUs have been superseded. So this is a really good piece of software. You know, personally, I've had this download and apply without a fault, up to 700, 800 ESUs. And so this is something that would traditionally take quite a lot more time. And you can execute this process to get yourself patch current in a very short amount of time. So this is a fantastic enhancement from Oracle, and it's something that we, that can save time for an upgrade process. Because generally, when you take an upgrade, you'll take, let's say, 9.1 or 9.1.2, you'll take upgrade, and then you want to get patch current. So generally, you want to apply every single ESU that has been released, so that at least you can put a stake in the ground, and you can say, well, my JD Woods is patch current, but every ESU, every ASU, everything up to date right now, and then we might implement some retrospective fixing of that. And so what this software allows you to do is get patch current very easy, very efficient. The next utility that Oracle have here is the impact analysis tool. And the impact analysis tool is very handy, and it's the next logical step from what we talked about previously, which is the support assistant, or the change assistant, sorry. And the impact analysis tool allows you to then, once you've downloaded all these patches, you could determine if any of your customizations will be affected by the ESU that you've just downloaded. Okay? So we've downloaded a heap of patches, let's say, a heap of ESUs, and we've got some mods on P4210 on sales order entry. And if we run through this process and generate this impact analysis information on our deployment server, it will tell us, hey, I've just mowed over the top of some of your P4210 mods, you're going to have to retrofit them. So it's able to give you this information, so it can generate a package, and then you can look at the impact of this particular ESU before you apply it to the DV path code, and say, oh yeah, there's quite a bit of retrofitting to go on here, we better get the development team onto this. So that's what the impact analysis tool can allow you to do. It also allows you to drill into the SAR information and all the objects that were shipped in the code, the date and timestamps of all the objects. So it's very handy for determining the impact of the change that an ESU will create. The next thing that I want to talk about is new for 9.1. Well, actually, it might be new for 8.12 and above, but it's the custom object analyzer. Okay? And so the custom object analyzer is a set of BI Publisher reports. So this is for embedded BI Publisher. So all the sites that are able to have embedded BI Publisher, what you're able to do is you're able to download an ESU, and an ESU will give you some new tables and a new report, and that'll build a queue that these BI Publisher reports will run from. So the BI Publisher reports will run off this queue that you've built with the UBEs, and it'll allow you to summarise the modifications that you've made in your system on a path code by path code basis. Okay? So it gives you a high level graphical idea of how modified your system is and which system codes that those modifications are in. And so that's great for a dashboard, bird's eye view of where your modifications are in JD Edwards, and then allows you to do planning and consider the impact of those modifications that an upgrade might have. Now, this is not just limited to upgrade time. This is something that you could run now. This is something that it's good to understand in your business now, where all your modifications are and how many modifications you've got. So that allows you to sort of start to begin to work out how complex that upgrade might be when it's time to upgrade. Okay, so that's an ESU package build, and then run some reports through your embedded BI publisher. The next item that I wanted to talk about is the application configuration analyzer. And this is at another level. So this is, again, it's a similar delivery mechanism where you take an ESU, and the ESU contains the BI publisher report definitions, and you apply that ESU and you run it. And that's going to give you some comparisons between some of your environments, and it's going to give you comparisons at a data dictionary level, a UDC level, and a version processing option level. So you can have a nice BI publisher report that's going to spit out, and you see some data dictionary examples on the side there of a nice comparison of, say, production versus development, or production versus pristine, or the difference that you tell it that you want to calculate. So you can run these reports with certain processing options. And yep.
Does that require that you've got BI publisher?
Embedded. So it's embedded BI publisher, not the. So it's not a separate install. You download the report definitions and you just run the UBE and you map the UBE to that report definition, and it comes out nice PDF like this. Okay. So it's not the standalone or interactive BI publisher. Yes, and so this is at a different level. So this is not at an object level. This is more at your data dictionary and user-defined code and versions level. Okay. Another thing that's come out that is making the life of people doing upgrades easier is the change in paradigm for the TC alter statement. So we used to use, I say we, see I'm Rudy today, I'm saying we, not Oracle. Oracle used to use, instead of using an alter table statement, this is getting quite technical, but the way they used to do is they used to select out all the data, insert it in a new table, and that will take an epoch for a very large table. And what we've got here is we've got an example, 155 million records in your FO911 with 28 indexes. That's pretty normal, 155 million. And they're saying out of the box, the insert into select star from was taking 44 hours with 8 hours of index generation. I'm saying that's pretty quick for generating indexes, but that's following the table because I've done it myself and it's been slower. And so what's been introduced is instead of doing this crazy insert into select star from, they're actually using database specific DML. So they're using alter table add column. Alter table add column. They're not just doing insert into select star from. And what that's been able to do is dramatically reduce the time of upgrades. And what this does is, this is an impediment for some clients to upgrade. When they've got so much data, and a go-live weekend is at risk because they've got so much data and they can't convert that data safely in a weekend, they have to mitigate that risk by changing the way they upgrade or pre-upgrading or using Golden Gate. There's many ways of getting around this. But what JD Edwards have done, or what Oracle have done, is made it a bit more native so that you can use these alter table statements and out of the box reduce your upgrade time significantly. I think the other important item on this slide is also being able to delay the index generation. I think that's significant in the scheme of things because the way JD Edwards generates its indexes is it doesn't necessarily force parallelism and they're run one at a time. So you can run that later and you can run them in parallel and you can run, so you can include parallelism in the statement and your indexes will generate lots quicker. Okay, so that's one of the significant changes that's available to you now. That's in the current tools. So if you're upgrading to 9.1, you get to take advantage of this. What else have we got? We've got some retrofitting tools. So this is more for the developers. So we've talked about some technical tools. We've talked about your CNC team being able to use Change Assistant to download bulk ESUs and get your patch current. And we've talked about impact analysis, which gets fed down to the developers once your CNC person might have run that impact analysis. And now we're going to talk about the tools that your developers get to use when they're actually doing the retrofitting. Now this retrofitting, you'll be aware, needs to occur when you take an ESU, and retrofitting also needs to occur, generally in bulk, when you take an upgrade. And why we're going through some of these concepts now is that the enhancement that we're going to talk about in the second half of this presentation really drills down into a paradigm shift in this area about how the updates come down and how they're applied, and simplifies that process. Okay? But it still needs to be done. If you've modified a standard object, you're going to have to retrofit your modifications back into that object. An ESU is going to come in, and whether you're a report or whether you're a program, the ESU is just going to mow over the top of your modifications. And then you're going to have to use these tools. Hopefully you're going to use these tools, which is the visual ER compare and the visual compare, also the ER compare and the visual compare, to put your mods back in to the base application. And so you can compare, when you use these utilities, you can compare different names, and so you can compare P55010112 to P01012. That's really handy. So you can actually just say you copied P01012 back in the day. You might want to get those vanilla mods back in, so you can compare objects of different names, which is fantastic. That was an enhancement back in the day. And then you can do this visually. So then you can start to think about actually how do your developers write their code? Do they write their code in a way that's going to make this very simple to retrofit? Okay? So maybe they just put taglines in their ER code, and maybe it presses a button, and then I can drag that button back onto my new app. And then my retrofit is a lot easier and a lot more simple and a lot cheaper and a lot more modular because I've programmed in a particular way. So we are able to use this visual application tool, and so copy buttons and copy functionality from different names and essentially different releases. Okay? So that really helps with making the upgrade process faster in terms of the actual coding of the retrofit. The second one is the ER code. So you're able to quickly find the differences between two different bits of code. So yeah, we've modded P4210. We've just taken an ESU that affects P4210, so we can compare, let's say, PY central objects with what's in dev because we've just applied this ESU, and then we can shift across our modifications. So with the click of a button, we can move that code across, save our version, we can do some testing, and then we just put our mods back into P4210. That's great. And so we've got these two utilities that allow us to do that quite easily, a little bit graphically, and much easier than a lot of cut and paste. So, that is a summary of the tools, and how you put them together and how you mix them up into an upgrade project is up to you. But that's a summary of the tools that are available to you at the moment to make the upgrade process a little bit more efficient. But now we want to talk about the enhancement and the real meat and potatoes in this presentation. And what we want to talk about is the next constant current, or upgrades as an update. Okay? And so this is not just a psychological sell. This is not just you can tell your managers, oh, we're taking an update, not an upgrade. Don't stress out. It's just an update. Because it's not just that. There is some meat and potatoes amongst this, and so there's a big change of process of how the upgrade occurs. But there is that additional advantage that it is an update. It can be sold as an update, not an upgrade. And so I think where Oracle are coming from is agility and the ability to keep current. Keep up with a 3-yearly upgrade process, and they're trying to make that as easy as possible. And you know, if you stay on a 3-year upgrade process, you're easier to support. All your hardware is easier to support. Your software is easier to support. You can get the latest patches for the database. You can get things patched quicker, fixed quicker, and you get to use the latest productivity enhancements that go into the product. And while you're paying maintenance, it's probably a good thing to stay on that 3-year type upgrade process. But of course, what happens is that an upgrade can be a difficult thing. It can impact business as usual. It can really cause some instability, and if you've had a bad upgrade in the past, there might be some reticence to take an upgrade, and that certainly occurs. I don't think it's the same these days. I find people are more aggressive on their upgrade path, and I think they see fruits of being aggressive on their upgrade path. But what Oracle has recognised this need, and they've recognised that they want to make this process more efficient, and I guess introduce less change to your organisation. So what I wanted to talk about really is the process of an upgrade, and I'm going to simplify this for this presentation, and I'm going to talk about a technical upgrade. I'm not going to talk about implementing too many process improvements, though it can be done. What I'm talking about is specifically upgrading the technology, upgrading the application, not implementing new modules or new functionality, pretty much as is, and then you'll do your functional improvements as a phase 2. So amongst those steps there, and what have we got? We've got technical, retrofit custom modifications, UAT and training, stress testing and final prep and go live. Hands up who thinks that the technical piece, that first apply the upgrade, that's the most difficult part of an upgrade. Brad? No? Okay. Retrofit custom modifications. Who thinks that's the most difficult part of it? The scariest, most difficult? Okay. We've got one by.
We've got just really continuous.
Yeah, it can be, that's right. But the business can see that as one of the big reasons why, let's leave this go for another 6 months because of that, and because of the risks that can introduce. UAT and training? Yeah, I see that a lot. I think I'd agree. And you know what, you've got to do it right. You've got to do training right. And the little parts of training are essential, and it's that core foundation part of the training to get the user productivity out of the software that your users deserve. There's a lot of work being put into little things like E1 pages, like very simple export-import functionality, very simple advanced query functionality and all the forms, and you need to let your users know how to use that stuff. This is core common foundation training that you're going to get more efficiencies out of your end users with, and that's critical. Who thinks stress testing, final preparation? That's pretty easy. And go live? Depends how good it is, isn't it? Now, it should be done on the weekend. It shouldn't be the longest part of your project. If it is, I'd like to see you list the modifications because it might be pretty short. So I think you're right. I think UAT and training, and sometimes I expect to see maybe a few more people put their hand up for the retrofit and the custom modifications because that can be quite onerous. I think it becomes more onerous the longer you've left it. Because what people I've found in the past do is say, no, we can't take an upgrade, we've got all these mods. And what mods? Well, I don't really know, but we've got a lot of mods and I don't think we can take that upgrade. And so really it's about drilling down with these tools that we talked about and actually finding the list of modifications, the true complexity of that piece. And methodically moving through it. So this would, I just thought I'd go through once again, just to set a foundation for the enhancements. I want to talk about how the upgrade process currently works. So you've got JD Edwards. You might have, let's say you've got release 8.12 and you want to come up to 9.1. And what happens? Well, you install a new deployment server, you install a brand new set of central objects, you install, you have a copy of your production data because you're going to run some table conversions over that data. There's a lot of data conversions that need to occur. You lay down a pristine data dictionary that you'll merge your modifications into. But the big thing that I want to focus on here is that you lay down pristine path code. That's what you do. Okay? Now, you also might apply all your ESUs before you do your spec merge, and I recommend that. But you lay down this code shipped from Denver, and it's 9.1, and then you might put a pile of ESUs on, because then you don't have to retrofit twice. And then, there's a special job called the spec merge driver that runs. No, yeah, it's good fun. But that runs, and what it does is it looks at object librarian and goes, oh, I've got to grab all these modifications from your existing system. Okay, so it says, I know that I've modified all these objects, so I'm going to go grab them from 8.12 and I'm going to bring them forward into 9.1. That's how the process works at the moment. And there's quite a few modifications, and it brings them in, and then pretty much you've got to retrofit everything. Okay? So that's how the process works at the moment. So even, whether that object has changed or not in this latest release, so just say it was the same, it looked exactly the same, we still brought it over as a modification, and you're still going to have to retrofit it. Or you've lost all your modifications, remember, because the ESUs and ASUs these days, they don't care for your modifications, they just mow over the top of them, and then you have to retrofit your stuff back. But because you're starting with this pristine, the 9.10 base, there's a lot more change. It's indiscriminate in what it replaces. It replaces everything. You're getting a whole new set of central objects. And this is core to how the process has changed. Okay? Does anyone have any questions on that part of the process? How it works now? So, the big change that's coming, and see this big plan up there, and we had our safe harbour statement, so don't go entering into contracts based upon this, but it's planned that this is going to change a little bit. So in terms of the process that the CNC guy goes through, very similar, not a lot of change there. But what is going to occur, that instead of putting down your 9.10 pristine central objects and then going to grab your mods from your old data source, what's going to happen is we're going to start with your path code. We're going to start with whichever path code you've decided to upgrade, so that, generally it's some copy of prod, but then you might have a bit of work in progress, so you might want to take PY, but then you might want dev, because you've got lots of work in progress, it's never on prod. It's always a difficult question for clients to answer, but you choose a path code, that comes over, and that forms the base of the code set for the upgrade. And then what Oracle's able to do is they have a manifest. And so this is only being offered from 9.1, okay? So this is 9.1 onwards. So they have a manifest of what actually has changed between 9.1 and 9.2 in terms of vanilla code. And then it doesn't have to change all of the objects. It only changes, it doesn't have to, so sometimes it'll only change 10% of objects, especially once you've modified, sometimes even less. So what we're doing is the delta is a lot less because we're only changing things that have changed in the base code. So that's what's getting laid on top of your models, is anything that's changed. And so, amongst the 50,000 objects that could have potentially changed, and in a traditional upgrade, you would have copped all 50,000. Now we're talking significantly less. And so the numbers that are being bandied around, I guess, is between 902, so between application release 902 and application release 9.1, there were 1,472 changed objects. So that's tables, data structures, applications, blah, blah, blah. There are 1,472. Now that's a lot less than 50,000, which would have been the traditional upgrade path. Okay, and then you have to look at, well, what objects amongst that 1,472, or the asterisk number there, 375, because quite often we just worry about reports and applications. So there was 375 changed applications and reports between 902 and 9.1. How many of those have we changed? And we've got a couple of client examples, and I'll go into those later. But you can see the impact is significantly less. Okay, so to the business there's significantly less retrofit and psychologically significantly less risk. So this is the view of, once again, the process, and how we're taking a copy. This example here is if you're taking a 9.2 upgrade. So we're taking a copy of your central objects, your 9.1 central objects. We're taking them over here to our 9.2 upgrade environment, and then essentially we're using this Oracle manifest to work out what objects have changed between that pristine code and your code, and then we're updating only those objects. Now, sure, there's still going to have to be some retrofit, because there's no change to the rules that if you've modified P4210 and there's a new one that's come in, there's no change of rules there, it's going to mow over the top of those mods. So you're still going to have to do some retrofit, but your impact will be a lot less. Now, they're not changing the process as such. We're still going to be going through the same table conversion workbenches. We're still going to be doing the same control table workbenches, etc. So the process is going to be more behind the scenes of how this changes. Now, you might think that, is this going to be more or less? Is it going to take a lot longer or shorter? And amongst the people in the room, who's ever been concerned about how long the spec merge takes? No, because it runs in about 5 minutes. Isn't that embarrassing? It moves 2 years of your code in like 5 minutes. It's a very quick process, okay? So changing that spec merge driver and maybe running for another couple of minutes, because it's replacing a few more objects, which is the delta in 9.1 and 9.2, that's not going to make a difference to your upgrade. And if you really heavily modified it, it will be quicker. So does anyone have any questions about that? Let's move on. So, we talked about that psychological advantage, psychological warfare, to call it an update, not an upgrade. And look, the changes can be that is if you can upgrade quicker, and if you can retrofit your mods quicker, and if you can turn these projects around quicker, the business as usual is running for longer. You're not taking your key resources out of the business for the project. There's some big advantages of being more agile and being able to turn these, these upgrade projects around quicker and more aggressively for the end users. This does reiterate the concepts of the 100-day upgrade, which you would have, been familiar with over the last couple of years, where it's, we're not calling it a 100-day upgrade, but it's technically focused. So as we talked about before, we're going to move the process change to the back end of the project, or the phase 2 or the phase 3, and we're going to concentrate on our platforms and pipes to get them on the latest and greatest. And I think the numbers are important. So in the laboratory, and when Oracle has done this work for based upon clients' real data and clients' real modifications, they've seen up to 95% or 45 to 95% reduction in the amount of retrofit that needs to occur during your upgrade. So it's significant. It's a significant time and cost saving. And you must also consider the roll-on effects of this is that if you're reducing your retrofit by that much, you're reducing the overall project risk by a similar amount, because you're not getting those changes in your custom objects, you're not getting the changes in the code set. The code set's staying more stable, exactly line for line like you've been using in 9.1. It's just less is changing in 9.2, so that you'll get efficiencies in your test plans, and you'll get efficiencies in your process implementations. So we're no longer going to ask for an upgrade. We're just going to say, can we update what JD was? So this is the real example that we talked about before. And so this is just a couple of, these were real customers, but without real names. So there's probably a word for that, like a homonym or something like that, a homophone. I don't know what that is. But they're real customers, but they're not real names. And as you see, I said before that that 375, that is the difference between 9.02, the official release, and 9.1. 375 objects and reports changed between that, okay? And 1,472 objects all up changed between those two releases. Now we can see this Encana, quite heavily modified. They've got 189 customised standard objects, okay? But when they've done their analysis, between 902 and 91, only 10 of those have changed. So they're only retrofitting 10 objects. So they've had a dramatic saving. And formative, just the way that their modifications are and the updates in 9.1, they're obviously more around the area that the Farmavite client implements. So they're impacted a little bit more. So they've got less customised JD Edwards objects, but they're in the sweet spot of this upgrade. So, you know, there's been a few more mods in that area in the 9.1 release. So they've got 39 impacted objects, and of course, they don't see the same savings. Okay? And so I guess a lot of this also is based upon the fact that we're dealing with a fairly stable code base at the moment. What we're finding is the updates to JD Edwards are more additional modules and additional functionality, not so much bug fixes and enhancements of your existing modifications. And that's what you see in these numbers, is that the numbers are quite low because the code changes are not in the base release. So, what do you need to do at the simplified upgrade? Well, you need to be on release 9.1. We spoke about that. This is for release 9.1 onwards. There's some new tools coming out. One of them is going to be the customization object analyzer. Anyone tell me what a UDO is? Anyone in the room? What's a UDO?
User-defined object.
Oh, Mark Ellie. If I had something to throw at you, I would. No, two. Yeah, user-defined object, that's right. And what you're finding is a lot more JD Edwards functionality is being put into UDOs. So these are things like E1 pages. These are things like your queries. There's things like your watch lists, your layouts. All of these things are user-defined objects, and they're becoming critical in the update, in your upgrade path. Okay, so you've got to be able to. Your users rely on this functionality every day. So there's a new workbench or new utilities to enable you to upgrade your UDOs a little bit easier. Full source comparison for business functions, that's going to be nice. The next thing is there's going to be an enhanced impact analysis toolset. And so that's just going to allow you to manage, and I've got the customization workbench that I'm going to show you in the next couple of slides. So there's a few enhancements in this area that's going to make the developers' lives a little bit easier, and it's also going to make the management of the development team doing the retrofits a little bit easier. Okay. We talked about that manifest, and that's going to occur. So that the manifest is going to contain, as shipped, what objects are different between 9.1 and 9.2, and that's the core of what is referenced in terms of putting 9.2 down over your code. So it doesn't matter how many ESUs you've taken in the meantime, and so, you know, think about this, it doesn't matter that you might have changed your code, it's what was stamped 9.1, what's stamped 9.2. It's too difficult to go through history and see what ESUs you've taken and whether there's changes or not. This is not a line-by-line code comparison, this is based on as-shipped manifest. And there's going to be an update to the platform pack, so essentially the same process, but a few different clicks and a few different things to not put down the central objects as it used to. And then finally, we talked about the UDOs, so being able to manage those a little bit better through the upgrade process. Security authorization migration as well, which is all sort of built into the UDOs. And then the final part, and I think I'm just about to run out of time, is the customization workbench. So there's a nice custom workbench. I left the Z there for Rudy. Now, this is just a quick one on this. This is going to be the new home for your developers when they're performing retrofit. So instead of going to OMW, they might use this thing called the customisation workbench. And I want to get there and show you quickly. So what it's able to do is it references all the J.D. Edwards catalogues, and it gives you a succinct list of those objects that need to be retrofitted for the particular upgrade that you're doing at the moment. Hey, that's nice, so that's good. The developers can work from this. But then what's next? A bit of cross-reference, a bit of other objects associated with it, so that's nice to be able to see sort of the relationship between this object that needs to be changed and other things, so that's good. And then it gets better, so then we can choose to maybe retrofit that object, and then we can quickly do our FDA merge, our ER merge. We can check it out, we can check it in, we can do all these things from this central console. So your developers can use this to try and expedite that repetitive retrofitting process that needs to occur. And so depending on the object type, you get some different buttons, etc. But this is another piece of software that's being built into the product to try and make those upgrades a little bit easier. If you're not familiar with this website, it's fantastic. It's got some great presentations. It's always up to date on the latest methodologies and IP around upgrading J.D. Edwards, so I recommend highly that if you hadn't had a look there, you could. And I think I'll open up the floor for very simple questions. Yes?
If you're on mum,
Yes?
currently,
Yes?
you need to upgrade, what's your recommendation?
Upgrade. It's a very good question. It's a very complicated answer, really. You have to evaluate. I don't know if your question is honed in on do I wait for 9.2 or do I?
That was my thought.
Yes.
You were saying all of this.
Yes, and that's right, and that could make the next one easier. So if you were to take the 9.1 update, and then this makes the 9.2 a lot easier, exactly. So look, there's so many things about the project team and the makeup of the team, and when your business is quiet and when you can take an upgrade. It depends on so many things. Yes?
You said the biggest cost is in user training and testing.
That was the feeling in the room.
Yeah, oh well, that's right. The forum said that.
I know that.
So what did you think was the biggest cost there? And then really my question was, how does this impact that cost?
Right. Yes. Well, yeah. I guess I somewhat agree with the room. It's I don't know. You're probably aware from the way I deliver this. I'm quite a technical person, and so I'm quite familiar with the technical processes that go on. And so then, when the testing and training is that one level away, it does seem to be a complicated and expensive process, and one that has to be done right and it takes time, especially the testing. And so I do think that there is, a reduced effect on the testing and the training that you need to do because you're changing less objects. At the end of the day, you saw that client changing 95% less objects than they would have if it was a traditional upgrade path. So that has to have a roll-on effect on testing and training to be much more simple, because we are talking upgrade, we're not talking install. If that makes sense. Does anyone else have more questions? All right. Yes, Mark.
How far away is the UDO stuff? And I understand it's going into OMW as well, right? So
Yes. Look, it's a question I might have to ask Rudy about, Mark, as I haven't been intimately involved in the development of this enhancement since Saturday. But look, I'm not sure. It's all planned to be released for 9.2. So it's planned to make your journey to 9.2 easier, that's what I'll say, but I wouldn't enter into a contract based on. That's Rudy speaking. I've channeled him. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you all for your attendance and enjoy the rest of the conference.